the Thucydides trap? It's a reference to the history of the Peloponnesian War, in which ancient Greek historian Thucydides told us the tale of a dominant regional power called Sparta that felt threatened by the rise of a competing power, Athens. So threatened, in fact, that all the moves they made to keep the Athenian rise in check eventually escalated the power struggle into an all-out war. I'm getting a bit annoyed with Discord. Oh, it's okay though. It's just another notification. Now, how is this relevant? This is relevant because China is a rising power, just like Athens was. And guess who was Sparta? Current day Sparta would be the US. So let's get deep into this while I keep grinding away at CPU defense. I want to keep all these quadruple XP boosts for the next season because they get multiplied again. So just after US warships again made a provocative passage through the Taiwan Strait on Monday, further making already strained tensions between Washington and Beijing, currently in the midst of a trade war. This guy called Steve Levine at Axios poses the question long on the Western public's mind. What are the chances of a US-China war? Levine recently crossed paths with Graham Allison, who published his explosive Destined for War. Can America and China escape Thucydides' trap? We reported that a year ago, which detailed the reasons for a coming major war being all but inevitable, sparking a global debate about the Harvard professor controversial thesis. Levine followed up with Allison in retaliation to the recent uptick in tensions in the region of the South China Sea. He said, if history holds, the US and China appear to be headed towards a war. Over the weekend, he was asked for an update, specifically whether the danger of the two going to war seems to have risen. He responded, yes, the chance of war is still less than 50%, but is real and much more likely than is generally recognized, and also not very likely to be reported in the news. So this guy had a comment on the central thesis. Glued to a 2,400-year-old script, the US and China seem to be on the same war-bound path that great powers have taken since Sparta fought against the upstart Athens. So again, that's a reference to the Peloponnesian War. That's like a Greek civil war, where this historian called Thucydides told us the tale of a dominant regional power, Sparta, felt threatened by the rise of the competing power, Athens. Sparta felt so threatened, in fact, that all the moves they made to keep Athenian rise in check eventually escalated the power struggle into an all-out war. So the comparison here is that we tried to keep China in check by giving them some grief about, I don't know, trade war, intellectual property, human rights, that kind of stuff. Chinese are pretty fickle about that. They don't like other people messing with them because Western powers have always been messing with China, forcing them to open trade, getting them all addicted to opium, which is the real story behind the Afghanistan war. You control Afghanistan, you control the opium, you control the heroin, you control the Chinese. So this is a long-standing dynamic which started out with the Boxer Rebellion, when the British Empire tried to bring the Chinese people to their knees. The idea is that when out of fear a dominant power takes certain steps to keep its competitor at bay, these actions ultimately lead to war between the two, or what political scientists call the thucydides trap. If Thucydides were watching, he'd likely say all parties almost seem to be competing to show who can best exemplify the role as a rising power, ruling power, and provocateur. Another good example is the Second World War, actually both European civil wars as they are called, with Germany as a rising power and Britain as a declining power. So this guy summarizes, based on the latest comments, that now more than ever the two great powers are inching towards that trap in their brinkmanship based on an inexorable, invisible force prodding them to almost inevitable war. It's good to remember that trade wars kind of turn into hot wars. Because if you're the first one to make a move in a trade war, that gives you an advantage. Also, if you're the first to attack in a real war, look at Pearl Harbor, that gives you an advantage. And the war in the Pacific, Second World War, was preceded by sanctions and blockades of Japan, which needed the oil. So they went, okay, let's just go get some oil. So if you were following the trade war, something you won't see on TV. The US has slapped increasing tariffs on Beijing, cordoned off US tech, and jailed a Chinese spy, while Beijing has continued to build its military footprint in the disputed South China Sea, demanding tech secrets from Western companies and men. The question is the current trade war alone or even wide-scale tech theft and a few encounters on the open seas be enough to trigger escalation and actual war? You don't know. China has just begun cutting off American warships, which are sailing between the China Sea, between China and the Taiwan Strait. Welcome to the show. Drop a comment. You're going to get it done. Let's see if I can get you up to speed. Give you the short of this looming war between China and the US. Something you probably won't hear on your TV. So what are the chances of a US-China war? If history holds up, the US and China appear to be headed towards a war. It's a bit of a paradox that when you're trying to prevent war, you actually cause the war. It happened all throughout history. First, maybe you remember Sparta was the dominant power in Greece. That Athens started to come out as a rising power, and the stuff that the dominant power does to keep the rising power in check usually leads to a war. Another good example is Britain and Germany. In the last century, Germany was a rising power, Britain was a dominant power, and everything the British did to keep the Germans in check led to war. So this guy was asked whether the danger of the two going to war seems to have risen. He said yes, it's real and much more likely than generalized. The US and China seem to be on the same path that the great powers have taken since Sparta fought Athens and since Britain fought Germany. The reference to a Greek historian called Thucydides, who told the tale of a dominant regional power, Sparta, that felt threatened by the rise of competing power, Athens. Sparta felt so threatened, in fact, that all the moves they made to case the Athenian rising check eventually escalated to powerful all-out war. This you can fill in any rising power or dominant power. I could say the same thing, that Britain felt threatened by the rise of Germany, so threatened that in fact all the moves the Britons made to keep the Germans in check eventually led and escalated to the power struggle and all-out war. For the 21st century, that would be the US and China. So the US is so threatened by the rise of China that all the moves the US are making to keep the Chinese in check eventually escalate. One of those things is freedom of the seas. So what the Navy likes to do is just show up everywhere. It's also known as gunboat diplomacy. So the US Navy is using the doctrine of freedom of navigation to sail between Taiwan and China. Now, Taiwan is a province of China. It used to belong to China. After the Chinese Revolution, all the nationalists fled to Taiwan. China still considers Taiwan to be Chinese territory. And if you sail your ships in between Taiwan and China, the Chinese are not going to like it. And they don't. So, if I recall correctly, the defense, one of these Navy guys went to China to talk about deconflicting, and China threatened that Navy guy. If you mess with us, they're willing to go and do anything. They're very likely to start preparations to invade Taiwan. Especially since the US is headed towards a bit of an isolationist path. They're backing out of Syria. They're focusing on their own domestic issues, which makes Russia very happy. So all these parties seem to be competing to show who can best exemplify the role as a rising power, ruling power, and provocateur. And it's the brinkmanship. It's like, okay, it's kind of like the U.S. shutdown right now, where the Republicans are pointing at the Democrats, the Democrats are pointing at the Republicans. It's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault. And none of them wants to move. And a lot of Americans are going without paychecks. That's brinkmanship. See who's going to blink first. That's a perfect way to stumble into a war. Because these trade wars, they likely tend to go into a real war. Just like it did with Japan. Japan has a rising power, the US, Britain really has a dominant power. So the US has slapped tariffs on Beijing, cordoned off US tech, and jailed a Chinese spy. But would the current trade war alone, or even the wide-scale IP, intellectual property theft, and a few encounters on the open seas be enough to trigger escalation and actual war? Likely not, but instead a World War II type scenario of an unintended domino effect of one-upmanship or brinkmanship, in which, for example, the simple assassination of the Archduke of Austria triggered massive escalation leading to World War. By similar scenarios, two countries will be pulled into conflict by miscalculations involving a third party, such as Taiwan. So if we were to say, don't touch Taiwan, China, and then they do, the West might go into a war just to save face. Can you imagine? So we put up a red line, we say don't invade Taiwan, and they're like, okay, what are you going to do? We are going to invade Taiwan, and if you want to keep your capital from being bombed by nuclear ballistic missiles, you better let us do our thing. Because if there's one people that are even more strict upon not losing face, it's the Chinese. You think Donald Trump doesn't want to give in and doesn't like it when he's ridiculed or criticized? You haven't met the Chinese. Saving face is everything in that culture. So we could stumble into a war just by people being stubborn. With the flashpoint being Taiwan. What happens is that a third-party provocation and accident becomes a trigger to which one of the two feels obliged to respond, and they find themselves in a war neither wanted. So, for instance, say the Chinese start flying bombers near Taiwan. As a message, like, okay, we can bomb you anytime you want. Taiwan shoots down one of their bombers. That's not the US's fault. But China would then respond by bombing the anti-air sites. Then the US might want to respond just because they talked themselves into defending Taiwan, which doesn't deserve it. It's not worth it. But you have to save face, so you start bombing the airfields in China. And there you go. The entire Third World War could be provoked by a tiny little country in butt-fuck nowhere Pacific. So precisely this almost happened between the US and Russia over Syria on multiple occasions over the past 2 years. Especially with the September accidental downing of the Russian spy plane with 15 crew members on board after US ally Israel launched a wide-scale missile assault on Syrian government facilities. So what happened there is the Israelis launched an airstrike on Syria, and what they did is they hid behind that Russian spy plane. So the Syrians, by accident, shot down the Russian spy planes. They're supposed to be allies, which is a very clever thing of the Israelis to do, to hide behind a Russian spy plane. However, that did lead to Putin upgrading the anti-air in the Syrian theater. So now if the Israelis or the Americans start to bomb anything over there, they might get shot down by the new missiles, which means that an American or an Israeli would have been shot down by a Russian anti-air, which means that the Israelis or the Americans would have to retaliate by bombing that anti-air. And then you're in a shooting war between NATO and Russia. Currently, what the Pentagon calls a routine operation as two U.S. Navy vessels sail through the Taiwan Strait has sparked fury in Beijing, with the Chinese Foreign Ministry on Tuesday saying it expressed deep concern to the United States over the action, which was the second such operation this year. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said in reaction to the incident at a press briefing on Tuesday, the Taiwan issue concerning China's sovereignty and territory and is most important, most sensitive issue in U.S.-China relations. The Pentagon, for its part, repeated its position of a U.S. commitment to a free and open Pacific, per Commander Nate Christensen, Deputy Spokesman for U.S. Pacific Fleet. Quote, the U.S. Navy will continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere in international law. Meanwhile, a crucial piece in the South Morning China Post, titled Taiwan's Cozying Up to Trump Could Spark China-US War, takes us down memory lane and outlines precisely, based on recent history, how easy the world could be on the brink of a war. This is not the first time Taiwan has become a central issue in US-China relations. In the 1960s US presidential debate, John Kennedy and Richard Nixon traded insults over whether America should launch a nuclear war against China to protect the tiny island of Matsu and Quemoy, or Kinmen, in the event of a communist invasion. These three are really tiny islands off the coast of China, which could be used as a staging post to attack Taiwan. Trump might now see Taiwan as an increasingly valuable point of leverage over China. Yeah, what if Trump decides, okay, we're gonna send new Patriot missiles to Taiwan just to pressure the Chinese. The Chinese are not gonna be very happy about that. They might decide we're gonna start launching combat air patrols over this Taiwan Strait. Then Taiwan shoots one of them down. Suffice to say, Beijing will make no compromise on this politically most sensitive issue, as it considers Taiwan a core interest. The Chinese feel that Taiwan is a renegade province. As the US and China drift dangerously towards direct conflict, Taiwan should be cautious. The narrow Taiwan Strait could be the flashpoint that sparks war between the North China states. Indeed, the thucydides trap might be right there in the seemingly remote place that could very well be the flashpoint of Kravens back. And time's up. Let's go into some deeper background. Let's look at Graham Allison, who published this, Destined for War. Can America and China Escape Thucydides' Trap? Infinitely fascinating. We have had peace for about 70 years now, which is unprecedented in history. Hang on, what was I going to... I was going to get somewhere with that. Years of peace, unprecedented in history. Strangely enough, this peace has been kept because of the threat of nuclear weapons. If there were no nuclear weapons, we'd had a war by now. But the threat of them is keeping US and China out of a conventional war even. But that's a slippery slope. You start an invasion of Taiwan, and then in order to save face, the Americans have to actually just even help Taiwan with missiles or troops. And there you have it. Okay, here it is. Oh, this is just a book. Yes, read more. Come on. Okay, it's not happening. Let's look at current troop movements. Taiwan may be about to get hot in the next year after last night's Commander-in-Chief's ambiguous message on defense treaties. US is going to send warships through the Taiwan Strait again. Do it. Let's get to wave 7 first and then I'll get back. I actually see some parallels between Taiwan and Cuba. The Americans would not let Cuba have nuclear weapons. What if Taiwan is Chinese Cuba? They will not tolerate anybody messing with their turf. It's a good analogy. Much better than last round. I think I should take a deep dive into this thucydides trap. Good example. Last century, Britain was the dominant power and Germany was the rising power. And a stupid little incident in Sarajevo collapsed all of the alliances. All of the alliances just went fucking nuts crazy. The Austrians demanded Serbia surrender. The Russians then mobilized to protect Serbia. And then the Germans said, okay, we're going to protect Austria. The British then wanted to defend Russia. And the French got in there for some reason. written. Alright, I found a good article about that. Couldn't they have given this guy easier to pronounce name, but thucydides? I have to live with it. These barrels are not well placed. I've decreased the number of spots in the base for more than is going to come out. So, thucydides is nowadays all the rage. Presidents, members of Congress, admirals and generals, foreign policy and national security professionals, scholars and news commentators invoke his name and refer reverently to his history as offering ancient wisdom on politics, ethics, strategy, and war. Not bad for the great general returned to writing history after his fellow Athenians held him responsible for a major military defeat and sent him packing into exile. That thucydides is now much in vogue and is due in no small measure to Graham Allison of Harvard University. In articles appearing in major news outlets and his newly published book, Allison ties thucydides' history to the global policymaking community and the wider reading public. His teachings provide a starting point and inspiration for Allison to examine the question of whether China and the US are destined for war. The book's provocative. In explaining why Athens and Sparta, the two leading states of ancient Greece, came into conflict, Thucydides famously asserted that the real, though unavowed cause of their rivalry was the growth of Athenian power, which terrified the Spartans and forced them into war. He highlights that Thucydides' recipe for making a great power war contains two main ingredients. The first ingredient is a shift in the balance of power, whereby challengers to the status quo, as they grow in strength, become more ambitious and determined to transform the international system in their favor. The second ingredient is the fear that motivates defenders of the existing order to take a stand against rising threats. Allison labels as the thucydides trap these shifts in balance of power that leads to decisions for war. Furthermore, he calculates that the odds for a war between China and the US are much higher typically assumed. This is finding that China needs so much attention, discussion, and criticism. Let's bunch him up. Over here, please. Can this conclusion become a self-fulfilling prophecy if decision makers come to believe that China and the US are indeed destined for war? The likelihood of confrontation is high, then what can be done to avert war? More ominously, if war is in the cards, how will it be fought and what will be the outcome? These questions drive the buzz surrounding this book, assessing the looming dangers of the coming struggle for mastery in Asia. For example, China's President Xi felt compelled to speak up about the validity of the trap during his 2015 visit to the US. In a major speech on foreign policy, the Chinese president asserted that China and the US were not destined to fall into war trap. Its leaders on both sides of the Pacific exercised simple prudence in their actions, respecting the vital interests of the other side. China's leader maintains that the trap would never spring. As a subsequent meeting between Xi and President Obama during their summit, the two presidents engaged in a seminar-like discussion about this thucydides trap. So they're aware of it. At least Obama was. I don't know. Let's get a light-hearted comment in there. So yeah, that's pretty cool for this old Greek guy. Being discussed and read 2,500 years later by leaders of countries armed with weapons of horrific power and intercontinental reach, arsenals holding hundreds of millions of the world's population in a deadly thermonuclear approach. Debate for hold. Commentary in the Chinese government-controlled media, not surprisingly, has piled on in support of President Xi. The notion of a thucydides trap is portrayed as part of the China threat theory, propagated by those in the United States and Asia who strive to deny the Chinese people their dreams of a national rejuvenation. The official Chinese news agency maintains, quote, while the 2,500-year-old concept is worth studying, applying it to China-US relations, as some have done, is like modern doctors basing their medical practices on the writings of Greek gods. The messaging from China is clear. American leaders who seek to apply thucydides to contain the growth of Chinese power will be guilty of committing a barbaric form of foreign policy malpractice, dispensing ancient nostrums for modern-day problems. That this Greek guy should be invoked to explain the motivations of leaders and countries in the 21st century is also questioned in the US. The warring states of ancient Greece, examined by him, lived long ago, far removed from modern learning. Critics says the thucydidean trilogy of fear, self-interest, and honor as basic human motivations take on human nature that is both old-fashioned and very male. Steven Pinker, in his bestseller The Better Angels of Our Nature, has gone to great pains to advance the view that international conflict is declining, while Pinker, like Huntington in Foreign, in the Clash of Civilization, sees the greater Middle East as a still mired and convulsed in a historic, violent age. The rest of the world dispensing with war as an instrument of national policy. Pinker's bottom line is simple and elegant. The decline of violence is an accomplishment we can savor and an impetus to cherish the force of civilization and enlightenment that made it possible. Our enlightened viewpoint enables us to transcend our fears and to understand that peaceful resolutions best serve our interests. I have to agree there. Our base is quite susceptible to snipers. Let's take them out. Sober calculations of economic self-interest, for instance, dictate refraining from war. The American and Chinese economies are so intertwined, you could call it chimerica, and that should stop conflicts. Yeah, that's still the best alternative to war, is trade. Instead of taking, instead of going in there and robbing people of their resources, it's trade for it. The other side, some people still believe that war is good for the economy. Yeah. Not too sure about that. See if I can get to the matter here. The claim that nuclear weapons have finally made war between great powers obsolete. The horrific prospect of societal annihilation makes a mockery of any notion of nuclear-armed great powers fighting for honor. No rational leader would want to tempt fate by starting a war that might escalate to include thermonuclear blast. The Cold War offers a compelling example of two superpowers, although arch-ideological adversaries fighting for leadership of the international system, avoiding a direct clash of arms. The enlightened elites holding sway in Beijing and Washington will understand, just as Soviet and Americans did, that nuclear weapons targeted at each other's homeland make the very notion of war between great powers unthinkable. The risk is too dangerous, the cost unacceptable when weighed against any conceivable tangible reward. Whereas leaders of the past might have suffered under the great illusion that wars could be won without having to suffer unacceptable losses, in world capitals today, no responsible policymaker can possibly subscribe to such an unenlightened point of view. The human motivations of fear, honor, and interest advanced by Thucydides, that's the last time I'm going to try to pronounce that, must be, the human motivations of fear, honor, and interest must be interpreted and tempered by the harsh realities imposed by the awesome destructiveness of modern day terror weaponry. 1 minute. After this, I would like to be prompted into a defense wave. I think it's 401. And let's see if the base can hold up with no specials against about, 600? 600 units, thereabouts. And go. So I really wasn't paying attention. That otherwise I probably would have had 40,000. Might get to 1,000,000 before the game crashes. Now I haven't had a defense wave in a week. I wasn't able to do them. I didn't have the time. Had to score points for the Alliance. Nope. Okay. Come on. Blow up. Blow up. There you go. Wait. Come a little closer. Very nice. Bring it on. Okay. Partnership. Very good. Wait. They're expendable. So are these guys. Careful. Going a lot better at paying attention. Get the medic. come on. Excellent. Not worth it. Patience. Alright, man. I'll get to your comments in a second. Let's go to the channel. Let's get off that Discord anyway. Fuck it, I'll reboot. It's gonna take a couple of minutes. Welcome to the show. Drop a comment. I'm gonna get a shout out once I get this to work. Quit Discord. I love that button. So I think I have about whew, 40 double XPs. I want to keep those for the next Alliance battle season. And I want to upgrade my base. I think 7, anywhere between 7 and 9 million, that should do it. About 200 CPU defense. Oh great, that's the problem. Okay. I'm having network problems. I think this is my second CPU defense for this stream. I hope I get challenged into a defense wave. I want to see how the base holds up. Right, the laptop's back up. Let me stay off this course for a while. Nothing that helps this environment. It's full of trolls. Alright, the browser's up. I know, I should have put a couple of these kernels back a bit. Now I remember. Hide them behind this bunker. Beams up. And the chat is not working. Teams up. There's the chat. No messages. I think that's Rio. Hey Rio. There's an ice ball in Fortnite above Polar Peak. Ice King is inside the ice ball and the ice is still melting on Polar Peak. Something will happen. It's freezing here in Holland. I wish something would happen. Sure the heat got turned up. Welcome to the show. Drop a comment. You're going to get a shout out. If I can get the chat to work, I'm going to pop out the chat, see if that helps. Come on, man. Get him, boys. Hold. Oh, the mic's kind of low. I might be mumbling. Yeah, I did turn down the mic. That's right. This should be better. Thanks for pointing that out. So yeah, about 200 more of these to do before I can upgrade my base. I'm trying to save up my quadruple and double XP for the next alliance battle. I got promoted to the War Council. Nothing's going on Ultimate Sandbox. I reviewed a game called Portal Knights. It's free on PlayStation. I think I'm gonna get 8-bit armies. I'll just get a scratch card with some funds on it, say 20 euros. It's on sale for 17 euros from 30. 8-bit armies. It's completely my game. I'm all about Command and Conquer and StarCraft. Plus it looks, it looks nice. It's got great graphics. I can play through the story mode a couple of times. I'll do a few skirmishes, and then I'll go online, try to defeat opponents. I'm gonna scour my friends list if anybody else is gonna get it, so we can co-op. Or I'll just make a new friend who has it, and then co-op. Base will hold. only just. I'll have to remember to place a couple of kernels more to the back. Works really well. I'm gonna hide a couple of kernels behind this bunker and we should be good. Yeah, that's not gonna reach, is it? That's not gonna get there. I had to decide whether to get 8-bit armies, Star Wars Battlefront, or more GTA. I think I'll go for 8-bit armies. There are a lot of live streams about the Sphere Ice Ball. Fortnite. I keep deleting Fortnite. I'm like, I saw they added a mode where, I think it's called ground game, where you cannot build too much. It's gotta be something. But as a rule, I don't really like third person, where you can see your character. I like to keep it first person. And there you are. 872, 46. That's 10,000 more than if I wasn't paying attention. Let's go to the next one. Get some of these, what do we call it? These kernels to the back of the base. Let's see, what's that thing about the ice ball? So I'm getting some news here from Rio. There's an ice ball in Fortnite above Polar Peak. I don't know, Polar Peak, is that a new bit of turf? The Ice Kings is inside the ice ball and the ice is still melting. I guess 1 week. If it takes 1 week to melt, that's a lot. Nothing's going on in Ultimate Sandbox. And there's a lot of live streams about the Sphere Ice Ball on Fortnite. I generally don't like PewDiePie. Ninja has a weird haircut, but that's okay. I could get into his streams. I got turned on to Yellow. That was a guy. His streams are cool. He's a good personality, but he has a very punchable face. I don't like his face. And then there was this other guy. He's playing a lot of Star Citizen, and his face was even more punchable. I realized that in order to become more popular, they kind of like playing the bad guy. So, for instance, that guy playing Starlight, Star Citizen. Oh God, he was such a dick, screaming into the mic, cursing his fellow members, and I don't know. It's not my deal. I'm not into that at all. I like to keep it positive, but apparently, the bigger dickhead you are, the more people like it. And I gotta admit it, even I was watching him. There was this other guy playing GTA roleplay. He was a complete dickhead. And so, why am I watching? I don't like the guy, and I'm watching him. Apparently, half the people watch him because they like him, and the other people, half of the people, they watch him because they don't like him, but they want to see what he's going to do next. There we are. Excellent. I'll defend right after I place a couple more kernels over here. Hide them here. This needs to be up a bit so they don't crash into that bunker. Are we good? Yes, we're good. Defend now. And that's another. Hey, I'll get to 1 million. I'm gonna get to 1 million today. It's freezing in here, man. I'm absolutely positive that I turned the heat on and it's still cold. Well, at least I'm not in Germany or Austria where there's 6 feet of snow. going to deploy a few specials on that first wave, and then I'll just figure out how it does from there. Plus some people are saying ice ball was moving. They say it's a tiny little move, that's why it's hard to tell if it's moving or not. All gamers in general are very receptive. They'll notice. And if they say it moved, it probably moved. So I'm susceptible to these snipers. I want to take them out. Engineers, not so much. Look, it was a fart cushion. Nothing happened. This should do it. Bring out the bombing run. And I'll let the rest of the waves crash into the base. See how well the base does against 550 enemies. Plus the TV in Fortnite, the RGBs in Tilted Tower saying there's a huge winter storm. So it's broadcast, they have like the weather channel. I would go to Tilted Towers and just watch the TV. I also watch the TV on GTA 5. That stuff is hilarious. Yeah, windstorm tends to do that. No snow so far. Yeah, we had maybe one day, just a little bit of snow. Which is really weird because in the rest of Europe it's really cold. You get that polar wind happening. Over here it's kind of mild. Not really snowy, it's more wet. Thank you for all that information there, Rio. Always glad to have you back on the channel. I don't know, I've got like 670 subs. Came a long way from 300 mark. Getting positive reviews and yeah, checking out other people's channels. You wish Ultimate Sandbags had other glitches, but guess not. Did you Google for it? No. Okay. I once trolled a couple of guys in Battlefield 4 online multiplayer, where they tried to use a glitch to get into the wall, so they could shoot people from inside the wall. And what they kept dropping ammo boxes so they could get C4 to blow a hole in that wall so they could get into the wall. And I used to just go around with a shotgun and shoot their ammo boxes. They would go, oh, they got so mad. Turned out later, a couple of Japanese guys, and they invited me for like a party. And then they were like, oh, you trolled us really good. And, yeah, they were like, okay, it was an honor to meet you. So that turned out to be okay, even if you bug people on glitches. Half the time they better be cool with it. Oh, that's not really working, is it? Oh, now it is. That's a nice little distraction. I'm not too worried here. 4:42 to go. rocket sword. Okay. I'm really looking forward to getting that game. 8-bit armies. Check it out. Kind of like Command and Conquer, but more of a cartoon style. And just like GTA 5 for 15 euros, how can you not buy that game? It's down from 30 euros to 17. I originally thought I was going to buy Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Risk, but I'm going to get that game. Okay. Ultimate Sandbox. Ultimate Sales Boost. Ultimate Santana. Ultimate Sandbox. Super Secret Glitch. Ultimate Sandbox number 5. From Cody's Gameplay. Look for Cody. 18 June. Yeah, there's lots of videos. Holy shit. Je vous te montrer des glitches sur Ultimate Sandbox. That's the first text file I can get to. Let's see if I can make sense of that. Je vous montre des glitches sur Ultimate Sandbox. Oh. Je suis abonné pour faire une vidéo à deux. Yeah, lots of results. 350. This is where they start trickling in. Gotta spend specials to get special. Wow, okay. Might want to step in here. No, they should be fine. So I gotta get a certain vehicle in GTA 5 called a Stromberg. That's exactly what I should be searching. GTA 5 car. Do I get it? How much is it and where can I get one? piggy. Come on. I guess I'm having fish for dinner. That's what he's gonna like. Ja, hallo meneer Eduard. Hey oma. Goed, goed, goed. Met jou? Okay. Ja, ik kom nou even sneller. Ik zit in de uitzending, maar ik kan wel even weg. Kom eraan, hoi. Alright, stay with me guys, I gotta go downstairs. I'll be back before this raid hits. God damn, it's cold. Oh, man. He said I'd be back. Okay, that last wave is usually a heavy one. I think I'm gonna let them crash into the base. See how it holds up. Oh my god. How, by, where? Same article. problem. Right. I'm going to put that in my history. Then I'll find out how to get it. Kronberg is a good opponent for the oppressor. So.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Kravens here.
Don't get the crack in the face. No force of habit. Doesn't look like the rockets are crashing into any other structures. Blast on him. I'm gonna get him. 403. How far we've come. And I almost made $1 million. So next game, I was gonna review Jump Force, Dragon Ball Z kind of game, but servers are down and are staying down. As always, appreciate the viewership. I gotta go eat. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the flip side.